When I first got this book, I was thinking to myself, dang, another book that I'm probably not going to get much use out of, and I have to read it over summer. But it turned out to be quite the opposite. It was a book filled with useful information and interesting stories that the writer Scott Berkun has gone through in his past as an author and a professional speaker. This was a new style of learning I have not encountered very often, especially at the college level, where textbooks are $200 and they pretty much just help put you to sleep. This is a book I would recommend to anyone with a fear of public speaking. Scott Berkun is a best-selling author. In the text Confessions of a Public Speaker, he highlights strategies on how to become a better public speaker through his own stories and experiences. I enjoyed the format of this book because as he taught the strategies, he kept me as a reader engaged through his humor and vast knowledge, not only as a best-selling author, but as a public speaker. When I bought the book, I thought, oh great, another textbook that I'll have to use, but it'll bore me to tears. After the first chapter, I couldn't put it down. I think what makes this book so successful is the fact that you are learning in a different way. A way in which it seems like you're reading a storybook, but at the same time, you're learning the key ideas to public speaking. Many people are scared of speaking in front of large crowds, but that's the least of your worries. I learned that if you're better familiarized with your environment by arriving early and walking through your presentation, you have a better chance of being successful. If you go into your speech like this, you'll have way more confidence, and you're basically setting yourself up for more success. I thought in this book there were some pros and cons to what he was saying. What I liked in what he was saying was on page 154 when he talked about logos, pathos, and ethos. This wasn't the first time I had heard about logos, pathos, and ethos, and I know they enhance your speech. I also found on page 170 to how to respond to mistakes helpful. No matter how many times you practice or how well you know the material, you are bound to make a mistake, whether you mix up your words or stumble or just blank out. I also thought on page 60, where Birkin talked about the 4 ways to be very well prepared, this could help anyone, even the best public speakers, because you can never really be too well prepared. There was one thing I didn't like, and it was the part where he talked about the self-evaluations, but I'll talk more about that later. First, I'd like to talk about logos, pathos, and ethos. I wouldn't necessarily call this a trick, but I find it's something you should incorporate in pretty much all your speeches. These 3 techniques are forms of persuasion, which in turn affects your impact on your audience. Ethos is credibility, whether with your audience or in your own eyes. Pathos is the emotional appeal with your audience, and pathos is the logical appeal with your audience. I found the part in the end of the book where Birkin talked about ways to respond to mistakes extremely helpful. Personally, when I make a mistake in a speech, I get frustrated and flustered. I like how he touched base on all the things that if your microphone isn't working, if the crowd doesn't like you, if your speech just isn't good. He had 2 bulleted categories, one to prevent these things from happening, and on how to respond when these things are happening. Preparation. You can never be too well prepared. After I read his 4 ways to be well prepared, I found that very helpful. The first thing you have to do is have a strong point of view. This often means research and know your topic inside and out. The next step is to know your audience. By knowing why they are there and what they are wanting to get out of it, you are informed enough to understand what you need to be saying. Next, the speaker must make sure to be concise and to the point. This lessens your chance of rambling on and repeating yourself more than once. Lastly, and this is what is most important, is to prepare yourself for counter arguments, because people will ask questions and people will hammer you home if you don't know your information. Humans are a very opinionated race and group of people, and they love to challenge a speaker. Now I'll talk about the one thing I didn't like in the text, and that was the evaluations. It's nice to know what your audience really thought of you, but I feel as if a piece of paper is not that way. In regards to this, I feel the audience has the ability to rate your speech not through paper, but if they evaluate you through their attention to you, and then at the end they'll evaluate you through their round of applause. He also really didn't tell if that doesn't really tell if you did good. Personally, I know I can feel if I did good on a speech. In a way, Scott Birkin challenged me. He challenged me to become a better public speaker. I would recommend this book to anyone who is less confident in public speaking and want to become a better one. It offers a plethora of tips and strategies to make you a better public speaker and to be more confident and better prepared. I know and I realize that public speaking isn't something to be afraid of now or overly be stressed about. It's something that allows you to express your opinion to an audience. I would like to challenge anyone who isn't a confident public speaker to read this book. I think it'll really help them. Thank you.